Hi and welcome to SCW here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. Giving my full review for WWE FastLane 2021, the first ever WWE show on Peacock and arguably one of the most pointless pay-per-views of all time. But actually, to give my quick review of the whole show, I think the second half saved the show. I think the first half, not a lot of great things happened. Felt like an extended version of like a Raw or a SmackDown, preferably more like a second hour of Raw. But the second half of this show had some great matches and a bit of newsworthy moments as well. So I'm going to dissect everything from that and the start as I go through my full FastLane review. And of course the kickoff was quite newsworthy. Caleb Braxton was hosting instead of Charlie Caruso. There has been some rumours going around that Caruso has some backstage heat. Of course this just adds fuel to the fire, no pun intended, to what comes later in the night, of course, with the Fiend return. But as well through the show, I mean, Seth Rollins embraced the vision, more like impairing my vision with another fascinating choice of a suit. I'm personally loving what he's doing with the suits at the moment. They're wild, and I'd like to see him actually presented in his ring attire as well. Seth Rollins' character right now seems to be a lot of fun to watch. Elsewhere as well, Jerry Lawler actually using their pop culture reference of the week, explaining how we watched The Exorcist from the 1970s, well done WWE, to explain how scared he is about seeing Bliss and the feud with the Randy Orton and potentially the Fiend. We did get one kickoff match, which was the United States Championship. Riddle defending the championship and defeating Ali with a great opener. I enjoyed these. These two have got good chemistry. The angle itself around the match wasn't so great. Ali, though, was actually sort of showing with the rest of Retribution, standing ringside, expressing this is how you should do it. You should be following my lead. This is how you become successful. Didn't kind of work out in the end, though, because Ali, the last time we picked up a victory over Riddle, he got help from Retribution. Didn't happen this time, and he actually lost in what looked a very impressive finish, the Bo Derek from the second rope, to give the 1-2-3 for Riddle. After the match, one by one, Retribution, after being told off once again, decided they were going to spend the rest of their time in catering, leaving the ringside, reckoning the first one, slapjack the second, and then T-Bar and Mace hitting a double chokeslam on Mustafa Ali. This seems then the end of Retribution, and let's be honest, I think this is the best thing all round really for the group. I think Ali can then focus himself as a singles competitor with that same need for Retribution, but I think may have a chance of getting a bit more success. When you look at the other characters, I mean, Mia Yim should just come back as Mia Yim. I'd love to see her introduced to the Raw division. I think she'd be a breath of fresh air and could be used quite well. I'd quite like to see that. Mace and of course T-Bar, if they go by the actual names of Dia Madden and of course Dominik Dijakovic, I think they could be impressive tag team together. I like the double chokeslam idea. I think that's pretty cool. Dijakovic for me would be pretty an asset on the roster anyway. Matches against the likes of Keith Lee, Damian Priest, then at mid card. There's a lot of potential with Dijakovic, so whether it's singles or tag team, I'm in if these guys get reintroduced as their normal characters. Slapjack Shane Thorne is the one I kind of worry about the most. I do feel he could be enhancement talent going forward. Maybe would benefit still being Slapjack. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not quite sure really what direction they'll go with him. But one thing's for sure, let's hope they're not all actually stuck in catering. Maybe we can have a five-way catering match at WrestleMania or main event. Let's see what happens down the line. But Retribution is no more. I think this is the best direction going forward. Let's see what happens with their careers from here. Hopefully they'll get fresh direction and fresh use on Raw and will have more chance of success. Going then into the main show, we kicked off with the Women's Tag Team Championship match. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, of course, successfully retaining those championships against Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, the SmackDown Women's Champion. Reginald was in the Women's Tag Team Champions corner, wasn't so much involved. He was playing a part in the finish. He seemed to distract what was going on with Sasha Banks on the outside at one point. This led to Bianca Belair kind of getting distracted as well. We got to a point where we thought we were going to get a conclusive finish and new champions. Sasha Banks did have the her finishing move, the bank statement on Nia. I think it was Shayna Baszler actually in the ring. Maybe I kind of forget which one was in the ring. But Bianca Belair was pushed into Sasha Banks, which caused then a bit of friction between the two ladies once again. And Sasha Banks was rolled up for the 1-2-3. And of course we still have Nia and Shayna still as your women's tag team champions. After the match, of bickering once again from Sasha and Bianca. Bianca being called a rookie once again, and a huge slap in the face as well, which I must admit, I felt that sitting in my sofa at home looked quite painful. But yeah, this is pretty much what you expected here. I thought it was a solid opener, to be honest, for the show, but like I said, this is the sort of thing we could have seen last month. and we've extended this for a few weeks, and I'm not sure quite why. I think this could have been done on weekly TV. Next, we had Big E defending the Intercontinental Championship against Apollo Crews. These had a good 5-minute match. I quite enjoyed it. Had good chemistry, suplexes all over the place, was fun to watch. But then we had kind of a very strange finish. It was kind of what felt like a botched small package, which was a 2 count for Apollo and then moved to a 3 count for Big E to pick up the victory. This for me just felt very lackluster, and if you're going to do that, for me, I would have just saved this match till WrestleMania, or I would have gone for a DQ finish. Why is Apollo being pinned this early into the new gimmick? It doesn't really add up for me. I would have much preferred seeing that dominant, powerful side of Apollo, realizing he couldn't pick up the victory, picking up those steel stairs and taking out Big E. I think that would have made much more of an impact in my personal opinion. I actually do worry, WWE are already starting to have doubts in this new Apollo character. Maybe because a lot of people are doubting the change of accent and character of Apollo. There has been a bit of backlash on social media. Maybe WWE have taken that into account, and it wouldn't surprise me at this point if Big E just won clean at WrestleMania, and that's it for Apollo's push, which for me would be majorly disappointing, because I do think there's a lot of potential in this Apollo Crews. And even though Apollo did attack Big E after the match and was still standing tall, the idea was supposed to protect Apollo. I didn't really get that feeling watching this match, but one thing for sure, there will be a rematch at WrestleMania. I personally still hope we'll get a brand new Intercontinental Champion down the line. R-Truth lost the 24/7 championship in an Old Spice advert to one of their workers there, and then of course won the championship back seconds later in a pointless segment. Shane McMahon was injured earlier in the day doing some MMA training, and Elias wanted to have a WrestleMania moment, so he did confront Shane McMahon backstage. Instead, he found himself in a match against Braun Strowman, taking Shane McMahon's place. Again, this might as well have been on Raw. It felt like a second hour of Raw kind of moment. Braun Strowman destroying Elias in 4 minutes. One thing positive about it, Braun looked good. Braun was dominant. This is how you should be booking your big guy that's 7 foot tall, as a monster among men like he was. But the fact that we're now extending this and having Elias on pay-per-view, it just felt a bit flat for me. But one thing's for sure, when it does come around to Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon, which of course will be at WrestleMania, I do think that the match they will have is good, even if the build-up for me has been utterly rubbish. Next, we had Shinsuke Nakamura against Seth Rollins, and what a good match this was. I really enjoyed this between these two. Had great chemistry in the ring together, and of course they have fought before at Survivor Series a couple of years ago. Showed once again how great they were in the ring this time. My main thought coming out of this was that Shinsuke Nakamura needs to be put on more single matches on pay-per-view. I really enjoyed the direction they're doing with him. Great in-ring work as well. Seth Rollins arguably lucky to get the victory. He had sort of like a back heel kick towards Shinsuke Nakamura to kind of escape all the attacks he was getting from Shin, but then of course the curb stomp picked up the 3 count for Seth Rollins to go then onto WrestleMania to take on Cesaro. Although this was kind of predictable, I thought this was a fun match. Next, we had a great video package going over Drew McIntyre and Sheamus and the history of their friendship, followed by a no-holds-barred match. And let me tell you, this was my favourite match of the night. This was absolutely incredible. Quite a lengthy match. We had kendo sticks, steel steps. We had breaking tables. We went through the Thunderdome. In fact, we had Sheamus actually going through the Thunderdome screens as well, which caused a nice bit of electrical explosions. Yes, I'm going to throw that joke in. More explosion than we got AEW's Revolution show. I thought this was a great fun match. This was hard-hitting, physical. Yes, Drew McIntyre was looking like Braveheart at the start of the match, but no, I really enjoyed this. I thought they told a compelling story. I think this match went on for at least 25 minutes. It was fantastic. Really enjoyed it, and highly recommend people go and check this out, mainly for, of course, the break spot of the Thunderdome where Sheamus went through the screens, and also I think the white noise for the table spot ringside was very good. Part of the broken announce table did come into the finish, was put into the ring, but Drew McIntyre hit the double arm underarm hook DDT, and then he followed that with a Claymore to pick up the victory. Solid, hard-hitting. Drew looking a little bit emotional that he had to go through this match with his close friend of 20 years. This was excellent storytelling at its best, and these two had great matches on Raw, and I didn't think they'd actually be able to take it up a level for pay-per-view. Boy, was I wrong. Predictable, yes, but I tell you what, a definitely match of the night candidate, and definitely a match of the year in WWE so far candidate. I highly recommend, if you haven't seen it, to go and check out this match. Next, we had Alexa Bliss versus Randy Orton, or as I like to call it, Home Alone 5. Alexa Bliss playing the role of Macaulay Culkin, Randy Orton chasing her around the ring. First off was actually running into what looked to be fire shooting from the ring to begin with. He then ran into the steel post. He followed around the outside of the ring where sort of looked like some of the equipment, maybe some lights or something, kind of fell from the top of the Thunderdome down, and Randy Orton, it just missed him. It was like, you're trying to kill me. Of course, then he came into the ring. He managed to block what looked to be like a firebolt afterwards from Alexa Bliss. And then just then, as we thought that Alexa was playing Macaulay Culkin, the role actually reversed and went to Randy Orton. There was a split in the ring, and a hand came from Belief holding onto Randy Orton. And of course, then we see actually the Fiend re-emerge in a charcoal version of himself. Yes, a new look. Still looked like he'd been from the depths of hell and burned alive. Very crispy, to say the least. And I must admit, this was kind of cool to see him come back. And I mean, he did hit the Sister Abigail on Randy Orton, and Alexa Bliss then went over to get the pinfall. 1, 2, 3. Alexa Bliss, your victor. But this supernatural stuff doesn't really work for me, I must admit. It's not really my kind of forte, but it's great that we have the Fiend back. I'm going to take the positives out of it rather than negatives. I just kind of feel that looking at this is the sort of stuff that I think makes people laugh at wrestling fans. That's for me as a story. I find it hard to connect with this, but I think from the positives out of it, we have the Fiend back. I do think the Fiend with this new look, I mean, it's interesting to say the least. It does look kind of cool. I do think we'll get probably a touched up version of the Fiend going forward. I don't think this is going to be his permanent look, and we are building to the Fiend versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Let's hope we don't have any spooky bugs running around the ring like we did a few years ago. But yeah, all in all, this was a segment, and certainly it's a talking point, I would say, from the pay-per-view. So if you want a talking point to go and look at, then I do recommend that you go and check it out. Last on the show was the Universal Championship match, Roman Reigns defending against Daniel Bryan. Edge was, of course, the special enforcer, standing on the outside of the ring looking in. We knew Edge would be involved at some point in a referee capacity. We were just waiting for that classic ref bump to happen for him to get involved. Of course, that did happen in the match after what felt like 20-25 minutes, which was a really good match as well between Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns. I really enjoyed it. It felt like a nice, good game of chess. Watching these two, seeing who could outmaneuver one another. Of course, Daniel Bryan being that submission technical wizard, and of course Roman Reigns having that power advantage and making sure that he had supremacy over Daniel Bryan for a good majority of the match. But of course, Daniel Bryan went to hit his running knee, missed Roman Reigns and hit the referee. This got Edge to get involved into the match, of course, to come into the ring. Roman Reigns had hit his spear on Daniel Bryan. Edge was quite delayed getting to the 3 count. This upset Roman Reigns with a bit of bickering backwards and forwards. It looked like as well that, of course, before this, Roman Reigns had been in the Yes Lock a number of times, and we found ourselves here with Jey Uso getting involved in the match, hitting a super kick. It looked on Edge, also breaking up things with Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns, getting a steel chair involved. Daniel Bryan managed to overcome Jey Uso. Of course, he had possession of the steel chair, then missed Roman Reigns and hit Edge with it. And of course, we knew at that point that is the little target needed for Edge to actually physically get involved in this match. And of course, Daniel Bryan at this point getting the Yes Lock on Roman Reigns once again, who had been struggling to get out of this hold for many a time during this match, actually did tap out very lightly. And of course, Edge at this point was not interested in what the result was going to be. Instead, he picked up the steel chair and hit Daniel Bryan with it. Made sure he hit Roman Reigns for good measure as well, which made me question a little bit if Edge has, you know, the right to feel like he could hit Daniel Bryan, and the fact it's not a full-on heel turn at this point by actually hitting Roman Reigns as well. But he made sure that he hit Daniel Bryan one more extra time and screaming that this was his moment. It's his WrestleMania moment. Of course, another official comes down to ringside. Roman puts his arm over, gets the 1, 2, 3 and retains the Universal Championship. And of course, if this is now setting up to a repeat of WrestleMania 30, getting the triple threat match main event with Daniel Bryan being inserted against Roman Reigns, against Edge, this storyline to me made perfect sense and was a great way to close the show. So that is WWE FastLane reviewed for you there. To give a final score for this show out of 10, I'm going to give it a 6. I think that it was newsworthy. I think there was a couple of really excellent matches in there, particularly the no holds barred match with Drew versus Sheamus. Loved that. The main event was solid as well in ring action, and I did enjoy Shinsuke Nakamura against Seth Rollins as well. The rest of the show, newsworthy moments, but arguably some parts did feel like a weekly episode of Raw. Other breaking news, Andrade has been released from WWE. It feels like he's got his way after WWE saying they would not release him. It's good to see that he's got his release, though. Clearly unhappy in the company. This probably is to keep Charlotte Flair pleased as well. You don't want to upset one of your arguably main event people in the company. So Andrade will be perhaps on the independent scene. It'll be interesting to see what his next move will be. I'm just happy for the guy. He wanted to leave WWE. He wasn't happy not being used on TV. Last seen in October, wasn't going to be pushed. WWE didn't see anything in him. I think you could have found a role for Andrade in WWE, but as WWE has no interest in doing so, there's many other companies that I'm sure would find great use for Andrade. So I wish him all the very best. And when his non-compete clause is expiring, I'm sure we'll find him somewhere, whether it's AEW, Impact, New Japan, Ring of Honor. There's so many potentials out there. Even NWA. We'll have to wait and see what the future will hold. But when I learn a bit more, I'll give you a video and let you know my opinion when Andrade is signed with another company. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts of WWE FastLane 2021 in the comments section. I look forward to interacting with you. You can also discuss about Andrade's release from WWE. Of course, I will be back in the week with more videos, and make sure to go and check out yesterday's Ask SCW Q&A session if you haven't checked it out already. But that's all from me. Thank you for watching. Take care. Have yourselves a great day. You've been watching SCW here on YouTube.